Hi guys, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery, and I'm located in Van.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Highland Heights, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk. Right.
All right. Hello. You're
Oh,
putting your glasses on. I'm
hello.
taking mine off.
Right? See, there we go. That's how we do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. We are live. I don't know if I already
We're
said that.
we're live. It's been I mean, I feel like we often do this, but and nobody should be surprised, but we've been talking for 45 minutes before we even started the podcast. Um, so yep, here we are.
Yeah, I was rushing so much to get here on time because I was finishing up some spoon rests that I threw yesterday, and I had a clay lines
Oh,
meeting before that tonight. And we made dinner. We're back on the every plate train, by the way. So back to
I
making
love
dinners
that train.
together.
I love that
Yeah,
train.
it's consistent. It gets us to cook together. We kind of fell back into those old habits of, you don't have an urge to make anything, so you just wing it, and we
And
ended up
make pasta.
doing whatever. Rachel makes pasta. I have Campbell's soup, and um, yeah, that's just how it goes. So we're back on that, and it was good.
You
Kung
know
Pao
what's
beef
funny?
bowls tonight. 25 minutes.
Yum. That sounds good. You know
Yeah.
what's funny is that I'm clicking in these markers. I got these awesome. There's this new shop or I don't know if it's new, but we found this shop and it's like a Five Below kind of, but like way cleaner and like nice and organized, you know? And they sell art supplies, so I got some pins. Uh anyway, we made carbonara tonight. Do you know what carbonara is?
God, I just know it's a pasta dish, but I keep confusing it with like chicken parmesan. But
So carbonara is it's a pasta dish that involves egg yolks and parmesan, and it makes like an egg yolk sauce, and then it kind of
mm,
like it becomes like creamy. And so we made that tonight, and we didn't actually have to buy anything for it because I had some parmesan and we had bacon. We used bacon instead of what it really calls for. And and Brandon was like, "Do you have pasta?" And I was like, "I have so much pasta." And I come in and I was like, "Hello, my name is Becca and I have depression and the only thing I like to eat is pasta. What would you like?" Like,
do you get the assorted
I-
bags of pasta from Costco? We've got
No,
that a couple times.
I don't like the fancy pasta from Costco. But but the last time we were at Kroger, I was at Kroger with Rachel. I got thin spaghetti, fettuccine, and regular spaghetti. And, and then whenever I go to Trader Joe's, I always get the like twisty kind and like penne or something like that. So, and I mean, like, I don't eat pasta all the time. I do just switch it up a little bit, but that is definitely I don't fucking want to
How
cook.
does thin spaghetti compare to angel's hair? Angel hair.
It's in the middle. It's in the
Okay, so
middle.
it's
So it's
so
angel
it's
hair,
angel
thin
hair,
spaghetti.
then spaghetti, and then spaghetti.
Yeah, thin spaghetti is supreme.
We've
I
got some upstairs,
love
but I
thin
don't know if
spaghetti.
that's angel hair. I That's probably thin spaghetti, I would guess.
No, you have angel hair
Oh, okay. I like angel hair.
because I don't like angel hair as much. Um, I feel like there's just not a lot of substance to angel hair, and I'm
It
here for the
feels like you're
substance.
eating a diet pasta dish,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
fine. I just want a little bit of pesto and
And that's why you don't have mental health problems, okay? Anybody that only wants to eat like a little bit of pasta is like healthy somehow. I don't know. Or just psychotic.
we had a really good what, pesto pasta. I'm trying to think of what the noodle was. Bow tie. Yeah, bow
Oh
tie
yeah.
pesto
I love bow
pasta with
tie.
some broccoli and cooked the broccoli for about 15 minutes and then took it out, shaved some fresh Parmesan on top,
Hell
and then
yeah.
put it back in for 5 minutes and it was kind of crispy.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
good.
we had asparagus in our carbonara. And I mean, like, I know that asparagus and carbon people that are Italian are like, what the hell? But listen, we got three little kids here. They need their veggies. So
Yeah, this doesn't
also,
look like a very veggie
it's
dish.
not a veggie heavy dish. And it's like me and Brandon just like living life without Teresa. She's gone. Not that she doesn't cook anyway, but like since she's gone, we can make all the food that she doesn't like, which is a
Hmm.
lot. So, I was like, Brandon, what do you get to not eat when because Teresa doesn't like it. And so that's what we've been eating.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm exhausted. I've
From
been at
cooking, or
no,
just
not from
kids.
cooking. And Brandon's like I was like, Brandon, I have literally seen somebody like every single day for the past like month, you know? And like had to like not like I had to be on, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that he thinks I'm a pansy, which might be true, but
The thing is, people with kids, they can't turn. They had never have an off, so they
right,
just
and
have
they're
to
like
be on
superheroes.
and ready to
Yeah.
be on at any second. You know.
Yeah, and they're like superheroes, and I'm not built for that, bro. I'm not built for that.
Yeah.
I
You're
have
like,
never been built for
I gotta
that.
keep on the move here. I gotta keep it moving.
I understand where my shortcomings lie, okay? And that is that I can't handle talking to children 24/7. It's just not something I can do. I
As long as you're not just an
am,
asshole to them. I mean, it's, you seem like
oh
you're
shit.
patient enough, right?
I'm patient, but I am not, I am definitely not afraid to discipline.
Somebody else's kids?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Well, I mean like with their permission. I'm not gonna discipline them. I have permission to discipline Teresa and Brandon's kids, you know?
Mm,
Like not parent most if parents don't want you to discipline them, they won't. But like I'll be, I'll be respectful, obviously, of other people's choices and stuff. But if they're not listening to their parents, come on, bro. They need all the help they can get. I'll embarrass a kid, no problem.
yeah.
Um, but also this week, I guess, is like they have like so many dress up days at school, and Paige is in third grade, Emmy's in first grade, and then Abby's at home. But so today or tomorrow is dress up as a present or wear lights. And
That's totally unrelated.
right, like Christmas lights. And
Mm,
and so we I happen to get a new battery like power station, and the box just happens to be the perfect size to fit a child's head. And so we cut the box and made holes so that Paige's eyes like she could see, and then I
right.
wrapped the present, and then I put a bow on top, and so she's wearing that to school tomorrow.
With lights?
So no, we couldn't find any lights. Listen,
I mean,
we
how many
did
kids are gonna
we
walk to school with a present on their head? So
yeah,
she'll stand out plenty.
exactly. And he said that they take pictures of all the kids, so they're gonna like take a picture of her, and like nobody's gonna actually know who it is. So yeah.
Like a name tag.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's been listen, the choice to not have children becomes clearer and clearer every day.
Well,
I
your time will come soon enough that you get to get some peace and quiet, hopefully.
Yeah, and I mean I love these kids obviously. I'm here for like a couple weeks, but I'm just so like there's just no resting. That's
Yeah,
it.
and you would think that after they go to bed, like right now, you're like, all right, now I get free time to do
Well,
whatever.
you do,
But
but
then
see,
you don't
okay,
get to sleep as long. So
I
you
think
you
that
gotta pick and
I
choose.
see, here's the thing too. Here's the thing too. So I have a very unfortunate issue in the fact that whenever I develop friends that are incredibly intelligent. So, not my problem. I don't know why this happens, but like I'm not superiorly intelligent. Like that's not something I possess. But you and Brandon just happen to be some of the smartest people on the planet. And you're definitely not as smart as he is, but um
I mean, I feel like you're reaching a little bit with smart people. All right. That's a Becca comment. That's fine.
you're very smart.
I know, but I don't know. No. All right, go ahead.
Well, not only are you smart, but you let people talk and you want to hear what people think. And that's my issue is that we have been having conversations this whole week about literally everything. Like if Brandon can talk about it, we're talking about it. And if I said one tiny thing 4 years ago about something, he will remind me what I said and then be like, let's talk about it. Have you changed your mind? Have you thought about it? Blah, blah, blah. And so not only am I like, kidding, doing kids,
Yeah, you're
having
physically drained. You're also mentally
I
drained, it sounds like.
I'm a little bit mentally drained and I'm happy for the conversation because it's good. I'm just not used to it all the time. And so it's just a lot. My brain is just on all the time. And so, like, when the kids do go to sleep, like, we're playing games and we're talking about things that are like, we're either talking about things that are kind of like intriguing or watching a movie that you have to think about, or we're playing games and like the games that we play are intelligent people games. And
Hmm.
like, you have to think about these things.
Right.
So he's not good at sitting still.
You're talking about Brandon, right? Not
And
the
you.
Oh, and me.
You all just suck. Okay? Yeah, okay.
Well,
I'm
the
kidding.
conversations I tend to I'm guessing he's also prompting these conversations a lot of
Yeah,
times.
he prompts. He prompts and you
Yeah.
you more observe and then
I'll definitely observe. I mean, notice this a little bit around family and stuff around the holidays and all that. I'm not prompting conversation. I'm not saying anything controversial to get into anything. But if something's asked, like I'll be honest about it. I'll talk about it.
right,
But I'm not
for
gonna
sure.
like do anything that's gonna potentially like, why did you bring that up? Or um like I don't want to do anything that like kills the vibe or whatever. But like if
Yeah,
usually it's talk and then it turns into talking about trivial bullshit that like why do you even care to talk about that for 5 minutes? But it's
right,
like, oh, because it's safe to talk about that for 5 minutes because who gives a shit?
right.
Except that
Yeah,
it
yeah, for
sounds
sure.
annoying because Rachel's like, all right, I'm like gonna go sit over here because you're still talking about that or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, but then it ends up being very casual and kind of shallow conversation, but like I also don't want to like not that I think whoever's in the room is gonna be like, okay, like I have to leave now because you killed the vibe. Like I couldn't enjoy myself. But
yeah,
especially if you're going to visit somebody, like you don't want to bring up stuff that's gonna cause people to be like, you gotta leave or whatever. Like they can't leave their own home. So you'd be like, I'm
for
gonna go
sure.
upstairs and not talk to you anymore. Like,
For sure. And also I think that there's like different types of how people think is so different too because like we've had this conversation and me and Brandon have had this conversation because he's similar to you in this regard where he really does want to know what I think about things. And so do you. And so you will ask me like you will continue to ask me questions and I let's be honest, I'm a surface level thinker. I'm just like not gonna go that deep. My brain like falls off a cliff after after a headline. I mean like of course the things that I care about, I'm gonna like dive deep into, but when there's things that I don't care about, I don't really give a shit.
Hmm.
And
Well,
but
there's
I
so much that
like
we hear about on a daily basis that doesn't really affect us that deeply that you would, you don't care enough to dig past a headline because you're like, why would they care enough to like lie about this or
yeah.
like who benefit like there's so many more factors in play when you're talking about who's benefiting and what are the incentives and the financial incentives and like all these other things and it's like I don't care enough to dig deep enough to really try to understand better because then it just leaves you with more questions and you don't really feel like you made
Yeah.
progress. So it's like why even put in the effort?
Right.
But
And like but then, but then when you have these conversations that somebody's like, "What do you think about this?" You're like, "Well, this is what I think about it." And they're like, "Well, why?" And I'm like, "I don't fucking know. I don't know why. I just that's how I think about it." And like it's kind of like if you vote for a certain person, you should know what their slogan is, you know?
I mean, I
Like
think you should know more than their slogan, but
but that should be the very like depth of the level, right? Like you should know what they stand for and like know these things. I am not that person and I but it doesn't matter. I do the research, but um I will tell you that the thing though that I like about myself is that when I have a conversation with somebody and I maybe don't know the answer, and maybe it's political, maybe it's economicals, maybe it's something like that, and I say something and they're like, "Well, why do you think that?" And then they go and like have a discussion to maybe, I don't want to say prove me wrong, but point out certain points that I might not have thought about. I am one of those rare people that continuously change my mind. And I'm really okay with being like, I was wrong. Like, cool.
they're
Let's
like, oh, I
like,
hadn't thought about it that way, or
yeah, exactly. And I've always been like that. And so I like that about myself. And so that is I've learned a lot from Brandon and I've learned a lot from you and I've learned a lot from Jen, my friend in California. And like all those things have kind of like shaped who I am, which I really like. So, yep.
yeah, there's tons of us, tons of things for each one of us to know on a daily basis of things that actually need to be known,
Yeah.
especially small business owners. Like, there's so much we need to know that all these other things
Or
are
trivial.
are trivial and like
Yeah.
in some cases are just hobbies of like what podcasts you listen to, what movies you watch, like how deep you get into politics or not. Like all of that is
Yeah.
just extra fluff and like entertainment value for a lot of folks. So,
Yeah.
the stuff that's really important, you know. But who wants to spend time like digging into knowing their small business tax stuff so they're doing stuff right or even knows where to go to get that information? Like, I don't know.
Right.
And who to
Yeah,
trust
exactly.
that
It's
feels like you're not being sold to.
oof, for reals.
Anything else
Yeah,
going on over there besides the kids and you're painting a little bit or drawing something over there?
I'm drawing. But Lloyd, oh, here's something stress. Well, never mind. But Lloyd is so we're in Tennessee and Brandon and Teresa own like 5 acres, 6 acres. And the neighbor has a cat and Brandon has two cats. And for 2 nights now, Lloyd and Anchovy, Brandon's cat,
Oh,
have
that's a good
gotten in.
name.
He didn't name him, but yes, he was a rescue. Um, yeah, it's a great name. Him and all of Brandon's cats are periodic table cats. So they're named after the periodic table. But except for Anchovy
I
and
was gonna
Betty.
say anchovy.
Anchovy was a stray at his friend's house, his friend's like restaurant.
And he kept the
So
name.
yeah, well, yeah, he knows his name, you know?
Oh, that's okay. I guess if they're old enough, they know their name.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Lloyd and Anchovy keep getting in fights and um not in fights, but like screaming matches. So Lloyd's all fucking stressed. So
Yeah, ours are getting a little more acquainted. Bobby's laying on this chair behind me, all cute, just curled up into a ball.
I can't wait to meet him.
But yeah, Marble and Autumn. Autumn's been a bit of an asshole. She'll just run
Yeah.
up. She'll just like walk up to him, and he's licking a bowl or something that we ate out of, and she just bops him right on the face and like gets him to run off. Marble's been a little. She'll just kind of make some noises at him when she's a foot away, but it's not. She's not
Yeah.
jumping at him,
Yeah.
which is good. But
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
slowly but
it
surely.
takes time. It takes
Yeah,
time.
it's not even been a month yet, so
Yeah.
we're getting there. But other than cat stuff going on, we got a new couch. That's been fun. Getting that down
Very
here. We're kind
exciting.
of reorganizing and cleaning up the basement a little bit. So
Okay.
we're going to start to pick some days to be cleaning. We spent a whole day earlier this week doing it, and I'm going to be moving the packing area, which is kind of right behind me
Oh.
in the video. I'll be moving that to the back room. We're going to use your overhead light back there. So we got um, a little more light in that room. And
That'll be
then
good.
we'll have put some carpet down and move one of the shelving units out to the garage. So we got a little bit better storage out there. So
Nice.
that's some of the plans for the winter months of getting some things situated
I
and
love that.
organized a little bit. So a little overdue, but yeah, we'll figure it out. That's kind of what these times are for, I think.
Yeah.
Just spend a day here, a day there. It's not that complicated. Both of us tag team it, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we're just getting I've been throwing a little bit here and there, but we've been mostly Rachel's been packing a shitload of orders, so
I
I
saw
bas
that. You guys are killing it.
yeah, I think it was because it's mostly been a lot of the same items that have always been in the shop, the shot glasses, spoon rest, and some like older stock that I put. So I basically put all of that like out with the old kind of stuff on 25% off. So I'm trying to like get rid of a bunch of things because
Okay.
historically I end up with a ton of work at the end of the year. And I'm like, hey, what if I just discounted this stuff? Not the shot glasses aren't 25% off, but the some of the spoon rests. Almost never sell spoon rests throughout the year.
Okay.
And I've probably sold 50 in the last 2 weeks.
That's insane.
And the shot
Are you
glasses
just
are
gonna keep
still
them on
moving.
25% off?
I think I'm gonna keep them there until I think I'll have it on sale there until the 21st. So it's pretty much like right when people will stop buying because they won't get there by Christmas. And
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know. I'm like, would it be bad
Maybe
to
you should
put
do like a
them?
quarterly sale.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't. I'm definitely gonna leave them in the shop, but I found myself like running out of them. I was even digging them out of my storage in the garage for shows. And then I even started glazing a bunch so I could get some fired. Like I'm like running out of certain colors.
Wow.
Mostly the speckled, like all the Etsy people love the speckled clay stuff. I don't know if it's just because those listings rate higher in SEO on Etsy or
No, it's because of Joanna Gaines.
yeah, those items tend to sell pretty good. So, um recommendation for folks out there, if you can keep those listings live a lot longer, and I think I just realized this, I'm gonna adapt it for other items that I tend to do in my shop going forward. Historically, we'll have Rachel photograph new stuff and we'll have her copy old listings. But I think instead of doing that, I'm just going to renew the old listings. And if I
Mm-hmm.
have multiples of certain forms, but like different colors, I'm just going to keep that same listing because it'll help with SEO of it getting purchased and then people favorite it and people leave reviews on it and
Okay.
all of that helps it kind of snowball over time. So I'm gonna
Okay.
do that, I think, going forward, so that because otherwise, if you sell individual items, you're just kind of resetting at zero each time.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go that route and see how it goes. But a lot of spoon rests, a lot of shot glasses, a few other things, but yeah. I've been having to cart a
I
number of things to the post office the last 2 weeks, which is nice.
Yeah, that's great. Um, I forgot I was going to tell you something.
What's that?
I finally went to Uli's. Is it
Oolies?
Uli's? Ollie's?
Ollies.
Ollie's.
I was like, what is Oolies? Ollies, yeah. Did you see
Yeah,
all the discount candy they have?
I did, but I couldn't find the ones that you like.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I think they're time sensitive. They only have That's the thing. You don't know what's gonna be there.
yeah. Oh. Um, yeah. Well,
What'd
that's
you get?
great about the listings.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, why do I? I'm like, do I need to keep these spoon rests here? They just sit, and I took these like decently good photos last year, and the listings are like good. I've got a lot of color options, and I'm like, why do they not sell? But I think it's the price point. I mean, in some ways, I'm like probably undercutting some folks because the price point is lower because they're 25% off. But also, I'm like, hey, I end up with so many of these left over at the end of the year. Why not try to like sell them out? Who cares?
Exactly. Love that.
Like I'm willing to part ways with this thing for $15 instead of $20. And
Yep.
then whatever Etsy's cut is, I don't know what that ends up being, but it's like,
It
hey,
ends up
let's
being $13.40, something like that.
yeah. So, it's fine, it's fine. If anything, it'll help with the
It's
searchability, and maybe that means that I can charge $20 for them because
yeah.
I kind of paid my dues, quote unquote, for getting a bunch of folks getting it and helping it rank higher.
Yeah.
So, I think that that'll help into next year. And I want to get some garlic graters up there next year and some other things. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think sticking to the fewer items, higher quantity, renewing the same listings is kind of the way to go on Etsy for sure.
Nice. I do have some news, and I can't remember if I actually told you. I think I told you. I don't know if I told you. Have
I
I
don't know.
told you that
Why don't you tell me and then we'll find out if you told me or not.
we'll find out together? So I think that I've officially decided to move to North Carolina. Did I tell you
Hmm.
that?
You mentioned it off air, but I didn't ask any follow-ups. What made you?
Okay.
Because you'd only been there. I mean, you literally just visited the state for the first time, like 2 months ago.
Yes.
What
Right.
made you officially decide that?
I'm obviously trying to get a job with Speedball, and I really want to like settle down next year for at least a hot second. And I want to get like a regular job for a while. And yeah, and if I want to get a job at Speedball, I could either run around this country and get like, do what I've been doing for the last couple of years and then be like stressed when they say, "Hey, you want to apply for this job?" Do you like,
Hope that the
if
timing
they
works out and
yeah, like
how do I
hope
get
that the
there
timing
and
works out. Or I could just move there and like quote unquote manifest that I'm gonna get this job. And whatever job it is, there is no job, by the way. It's
if
just
anything, it shows
whatever.
dedication because you're willing to be
Yeah.
stationary.
And they have Publix out there, and Publix is a really good company. So I'm gonna see if I can get a job at Publix for the time being. And I might try to buy some land. Uh, which is something I want to do anyway, by the way, for everybody that's like, isn't that a little brash to buy some land? But I found a piece of land for like 10 grand. So we're gonna see if that pans out. I don't know if it will or not. Nah, no hopes, but
Is it going to
um,
be Statesville area or are
yeah,
you going to be okay?
yeah. So if anybody has any tips and tricks on buying land, let me know. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna go out there in January after I go visit my parents. So, yep,
Sweet.
that's the that.
It's
Short and
official.
sweet. It's official because I've said it on the podcast.
Was there a specific breaking point? Was it just physically being there to see it and talk to the folks and or was it like, hey, I'm going to the toughest time of the year and I don't know that I want to risk going through that this time and
Yeah, I think that it's just like I really just want to be stationary for a hot second.
you're gonna be
Not only
stationary, Becca.
yeah, not only stationary uh like I don't want to be stationary with somebody, if that makes any sense. I really love going to like my friends' houses and their studios and stuff like that. Um, but I think I need some time by myself, like seeing people on my own time instead of seeing people all the time. And
When you said with
yeah.
someone, you were comparing it to like going to the Beals and being there for four
Yeah,
months. Is that
and
what you
by
mean?
the way,
With
yeah,
someone?
yeah, and by the way, I love the Beals, and if there was anybody that I would stay for a long time, it would be with the Beals. I love them. Um, because you don't have to be like on all the time. I don't have to be like on all the time with them. But and same with you.
You kind of had your own space too, so
Yeah. Yeah, and that was very helpful. And so and also for Lloyd, um, and poor Dottie, poor dumb Dottie.
did you ever
Um,
figure out if she has hearing? Did you, I don't know if you went to a vet or somebody to see somebody since I mentioned that.
Dottie,
Do you think that's a possibility still?
it might be like I'm saying her name and she's not fucking moving. Also she
No
has her
like ear
head
glitches or anything.
nothing. She has her head to the wall. She is sleeping with her head straight to the wall. It's maybe a half an inch away from the
Oh
wall.
my gosh.
Like I'm telling you, there is nothing in that little brain of hers, and God bless her. I love her.
That's great.
Yeah, she's
That's
just
great.
dumb as dumb can be, and there's nothing better, in my opinion. Um, and I also think she was like severely traumatized. So, uh, yeah.
You want to do a
But
listener question soon?
yeah, we should probably do that. Oh, also, um, yeah, we should
Hmm.
do yeah, listener question. But first we should chat about how much you've been using your L&L kiln for
Been
for all
restocking those
your
shot glasses like crazy.
yeah,
Okay, so
that's
the
another thing.
yeah, it was perfect for that. I actually did just bisque 20 little sipper cups that were probably a 6 ounce cup, little 4 6 ounce cup.
Okay.
Uh, they fit in there pretty nicely because I was trying to get them done for the soda firing. I think I'm gonna maybe get a few of those in the soda firing this weekend. But those in the shot glasses, I got 21 in the one glaze firing I did recently, and then I got 24 in the second glaze firing I did. Two of them did stick together, so a little too tight on that one, but we'll see how that evolves. But
This
yeah,
is honest advertising.
they've been working out pretty well. I think it's just a little, I don't know, just a little jostling. And all my shot glasses aren't perfectly flat either, so I get a little risky with that. But yeah, it's been working out pretty well. I yeah, using the advancer shelves in there, working out good, no sticking or anything. And yeah, the program's been pretty set it, forget it. I was like, I'm kind of like, do I want to like load the big kiln and get more stuff glazed, or do I just want to like, okay, I just want to keep continuing to get stuff through? And I
Yeah.
kind of leaned that route. I was like, okay, I can glaze, 30 shot glasses or 40 shot glasses and just see what I can fit in here and just do this 2 days in a row. Because it
Yeah.
cools so fast and I mean, it doesn't fire, you gotta be reasonable with your firing expectation because it is really thick and, it's a pretty insulated kiln. So, I think some people expect that it's going to be like 4 hours and like nothing, but
No, it was definitely different from when I Um, like from my old kiln that rhymed with smut. Flut, flute, clut, butt.
That's what I was thinking. I was waiting for you to say it.
Uh, P.S. There's nothing wrong with those kilns. I just don't know any other words that rhyme with
It's also half the size, right?
hut, hut, hut.
Hut.
It's also half the size, but I was like blown away at the heat retention of the L&L plug-in fire as opposed to like that. It was definitely
I've heard it's a little less
different.
consistent. You were talking about you hoped it got to the right temperature too.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's a lot less insulated, so you kind of just like you're like, well, hopefully it gets there, and then it like it does have an electronic controller, but it doesn't have the Genesis controller the
The plug-in fire does.
like the plug-in fire does. So the plug-in fire's Genesis controller really makes that troubleshooting a lot easier, you know? And at the end of the day, a kiln's a kiln's a kiln's a kiln, right? What you can afford and what you can get is what you can afford and what you can get. And but there are things that make them a little bit better.
Hmm.
And having that Genesis controller is really amazing. Um and like being able to fire consistently and know what firing you did the last time and how long that was is pretty great.
Yeah, it'll retain that information, and then if you want to just rinse and repeat, it's easy to do. You can
Yeah.
pre-program your bisque firing and your glaze fire. Maybe you want to do like a slower glaze fire or a fast one. I've run a couple fast bisques recently because I my stuff's super dry, so I'm like I'm just gonna run this a preset fast bisque and let it run. Probably cut off a couple hours or 3 hours, I think, off of a slower bisque that I would do. So I'm just like I just want to get these done,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's super quick.
And also such a good Christmas gift, by the way. If you are kind of like thinking about that, and I'm pretty sure Clay King like will ship them out like literally the next day. Um, I don't know. I'm sure well, I know that they like have sold way more than they thought they would, so yay! But yeah, I know that like the shipping can be pretty good depending on who you buy it from. And yeah, I mean like as far as pottery tools go, it's in the mid-range of costs, you know?
Hmm. I didn't expect to use it as much as I have been, but
And if that's
it's pretty
not a
convenient.
testimony, I don't know what is.
Pretty convenient.
Yeah,
Because
it's
usually I'm
pretty damn
cranking out
convenient.
work, but it's nice to just I'm like, okay, what like needs to get done?
Yeah.
So it's nice not
And
having to
it
wait
doesn't,
to fill the massive kiln.
you're right, it doesn't feel guilty to like put one thing in there.
Yeah, it's I mean it's running off. I mean I'm not putting one thing in there, but I'm not putting like I have fired a couple decal mugs. That was pretty nice too.
Yeah.
Just had a couple decals. I don't want to fire a whole kiln for two decals
Yeah, for sure.
on mugs. So yeah, it's been pretty convenient. I'll probably be using it some more here shortly. But yeah, if you want to find out everything about the plug-in fire, all the accessories, how-to videos, all of that, where can you go, Becca?
Hotcams.com.
All right, we're gonna do a quick question from BJ Glick. This reads, just started listening, and my first one was the hands-on tips for short workshops. I'm a retired teacher and miss my classes, so I thought I'd give it a go with something out of the ordinary. Raku. The first workshop went great, lots of work, but the 7 people who attended had a blast. I've listed 3 other workshops since then, and well, nothing but crickets. I'm working out of a well-known artist's studio. He's a painter who has a large email list, but most of these contacts are at least an hour away. I don't have an email list, so I'm reaching out to y'all for some advice on how to get more local folks out. Love the idea of Christmas tree decorations and a paint and sip. Should I make flyers and take to businesses to put up, leave business cards? Anything you may think of will be helpful. Thanks for what y'all do. BJ Glick.
I have lots of ideas. What about you?
I have some ideas.
Okay.
He didn't tell us where he physically is located, so that limits things a bit. I don't know if he's in a rural area or
Yeah, let's assume that he might be because everybody's like an hour away. Well, maybe not because if you were in a rural area, an hour would be nothing.
yeah.
Um,
People go an hour to go to Walmart.
yeah. I the
I mean,
first thing I will say before we even start is get yourself an email list. Just get it. Just do
that's
it.
what I did. Soda Fire Workshop. I was like, I don't know how many people are gonna be interested. Dipping my toe in here. Let's get as many interested folks as I can, as early as
Yep.
I can, because at some point, a lot of folks are gonna have timing conflicts. That's gonna happen with no matter what workshop. They could be gung ho about doing it. They would do it any day of the week, but not that day of the week because they have a commitment. Like that's
Yeah.
gonna happen. So you need the email list for sure. And expecting to use the painter's email list is not going to be beneficial. Plus, I would feel a little icky about asking a painter for his email list,
Well,
asking
I think
somebody else for
they're
their
like
email list.
using it out of their studio, so that's fair. Like the
Oh, so
studio's
they're
gonna
like,
send out. Yeah,
hey, the studio has this workshop going on. Come and join us.
exactly.
Oh, okay. I
Exactly.
gotcha.
Yeah. So, yeah, get an email list and like have everybody that attended your class have an email. And then uh what you can do is offer incentives for people who so you started with 7, okay? And those 7 can bring 7 more eventually, If you put out a thing that says, "Hey, I'm trying to build my clientele. I would love to give a discount to anybody that's taken one before that brings a friend and wants to do another workshop," you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to get a lot of repeats on workshops, and that's good. That's good. Um,
Especially if you're
but
mixing up the topic. I was thinking he meant Raku
yeah,
was going to be his topic for all of them, and he was just
no,
trying. The pool of the Raku interest was dwindling, but he did mention the Christmas tree decorations and paint and sip. So,
yeah. Yeah, I would say you have a lot of opportunities to reach people just by word of mouth, too. Um,
hmm
Obviously there's crickets. It takes time. That's just kind of
yeah.
it just takes time. But also, if you're not on Facebook, you should be because locals are for Facebook. That's what, in my opinion, locals are Facebook
Yeah.
people.
Like I think creating a Facebook event for the workshop would be a good
Yep,
idea. It's
yep,
gonna, even if people are interested, I don't know if the studio has its own Facebook page and it's got people on there, if you can have the event created or co-hosted. If you have
yeah,
a business page for yourself and you create the event on your own Facebook business page and then you co-host it with that studio is likely going to get, if they have a lot of eyeballs that follow the studio, they'll see that, hey, there's an event coming up at the studio. Maybe I want to join it. Take care of all the basic stuff with like, do you have it listed on your website? Is it on the studio website? Do you have it on your Facebook business page? Are you actually talking about it on your social media? Like, it feels a little, don't feel like it's shameless to be like plugging your own stuff and talking about your workshops you have coming up. Like, nobody's gonna know about it if you
yeah.
don't tell anybody about it.
Also, you can try using, I've used, God, what's that thing the one where you wow, why can't I think of it?
Are you talking
The
about?
event, it's like the event thing.
Oh, there's a bunch of those,
Wait,
aren't there?
no, it's the coupon one, where you get coupons for events and
Eventbrite.
Is it Eventbrite?
That is a thing. I don't know about oh, Groupon.
Groupon.
Groupon. Okay. Is that
Yeah.
hard to do?
No.
Oh, you just say like I'm a business and I want to offer it.
Yeah.
That's a good
You
idea.
don't have to offer like a discount. It's just easy to sign up, you
Yeah,
know?
you're just listing on there as events and things to do.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I use
They
that
probably take
for,
a cut of it, right? So they might take
I
like
think they take a very
5% or
minimal.
10% or something.
Yeah, it's like very minimal.
But 10%
Um,
of somebody you weren't gonna have there anyway, so
right. So I would,
I like that idea.
yeah, Groupons are great. And that way, if you have an event, they can like go sign up on a Groupon so it feels official, you know?
Hmm.
Um, like I said, you could have like a bring a friend discount. I think that's the thing. Like, you gotta work within people's kind of like not their means, but their desires. Like nobody wants to go to these things alone. So, like, hey, if you sign up and bring a friend, it's 10% off or something, like something stupid.
Yeah, I think that's where he mentioned should I make flyers and take them to businesses to put up. I don't think that's a bad idea either. I mean, going
Yeah.
old school flyer route, going with
Hobby Lobby.
yeah. If you want to put that discount code thing on the little sticker with the tabs or something, like maybe they scan the QR code and it has a discount code on it, that might drive people to actually take action because they wouldn't be able to get that discount if they walk away from it and don't remember it.
Yep.
You know, maybe you hang the flyer and you say the discount's available with this code or whatever. And that'll also give
If
you
the,
information like, hey, these flyers went out. That's how people found out about it. They signed up
yeah.
from the flyer.
If there is a local food place that does a lot of takeout, ask them if they'll put a flyer in for when they do takeout orders.
Would you be willing to pay for something like that if they asked you to pay them?
It's up to you. I probably wouldn't, but
Hmm. Yeah. I feel like we mentioned that before. You talked about pizza boxes, I think.
yeah. See, and now, see, I would say pizza boxes, but though in that case, you literally have to like put them on the pizza box. You have to like tape them on the pizza box. So I would either want to pay that person um or maybe offer to tape them, do the taping.
Like, I'll bring my tape and I'll just stick them on all of them.
Right, like I'm more
Yeah.
than happy to do the work.
One other thing that I've been doing for the soda workshop specifically, and I've only actually done this specific thing once, but I do have the email list, so that's a prerequisite for this. But once you get that list, I wrote up right after my very first workshop, I wrote a recap and I had a photo of the group of us. I talked about how the workshop went, my takeaways, what I was excited about, what the attendees got out of it, and then I put my next workshop dates on there, and I almost filled it up like that. So I think you're like I was giving them a story. I was giving them like, hey, this is what you could expect, even if it's, hey, our last workshop was Raku. Hopefully you got some photos from it and you can recap. We just did this Raku workshop. It was really enjoyable. Here's some of the results we got out of it. And here's our next ones we have coming up. And you have a little blurbs about your Christmas tree decorations, your paint and sip, and what people can expect at each. And then you have the signups for that.
And maybe do another Raku workshop at the same time. Like schedule another Raku workshop like a little bit out. And then at the same time schedule those others so that when you email the people in the past say, "Hey, like we love doing that workshop. Here we have another Raku workshop. I'd love it if you told your friends about it. But also we have some other workshops coming up. I'm gonna do this and this and this,
Hmm.
and have them like ready to go."
Yeah. And make sure there are enough time in advance too, because I learned early on from mine. that I scheduled too short of notice, especially if it's ceramics related. If people have to make work, I assume that people already have Bisqueware, but that's not reality for a lot of folks. They have to make items for the things that they're going to be participating in. So I had to give, I think I gave like a month and a half or 2 months notice between when I announced that recap email and the next workshop. So I had plenty of time for people to decide if they wanted to do it, make sure they can financially handle it, as well as, talking with other people that they want to join with and sign up. So give them enough time to think about it. Some of these things, like if it's paint and sip, they don't really need to prepare anything. They just come and show up. So
Yeah.
shorter time frame probably is okay for that, but longer time frames probably better regardless because it gives you more time to advertise and market and get folks to sign up. So
I cannot wait for the day when Ryan remembers that people are not as smart as him. Someday, you'll remember the first time that not everybody
that's smart.
does
I prepared.
prepared. Yeah. Like, you guys that are listening, the amount of times I have to tell Ryan, nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna read that is too many times. But that's actually kind of one of the things I like about you. You have
I feel
such
like
good
even if they won't read it, you still gotta take your shot sometimes.
you have such high hopes for people.
So you just don't even put the effort in because you just say, I don't expect anyone to do this.
No, 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 no. No, no, no.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta at least put the effort in to write
You
it
put
and
the
to
effort
say
in.
it.
You put the effort in, but you over communicate. I'm an over communicator.
There's a balance of how much to over communicate because then you just feel like it's wasted time.
Yeah.
I'm talking about pot swap here specifically, but
Specifically. Anyway, yeah, no, he's not wrong. And don't like expect people to understand things the first time, like we always say, can't expect people to be smart. So you gotta expect them, like, treat them nicely, obviously, but treat them like they're second graders. Like, lay it out super plain as day. You gotta
Mhm.
be super,
Right to the
like,
point.
yep,
Also, the marketing, you could put all your effort into this one social media post that you did to talk about it. You felt like it was perfect, and it just didn't reach enough people. But if you get a second post, a few days later, maybe that's the thing that bumps them over the edge. Maybe they just hear about it and they're like, oh, they just passed by it. But then they see it a second time, they're like, okay, oh, you know what? I did think about that before. And then they actually take action. A lot of times you can't just
yeah,
put one piece of marketing out and it's going to do everything you need it to. You got to work harder to keep getting those at bats.
yeah. Also, for not for this specific person, but like if you are doing an online workshop, you should definitely not sleep on the fact that Clay Buddies has 30 to 50,000 people in it. I don't even know how many they have now.
Hmm.
But like Deanna was doing her online workshop for jewelry, and you can't you shouldn't be the one posting it if it's your, like, if it's your workshop.
Because you're
But
self-promoting. You're not really supposed to do that,
because
right?
you're self-promoting. But I like saw it on her Facebook and I was like, oh my God, I forgot about Clay Buddies. And I posted it on Clay Buddies and shared it and like did a little, just a little slip. And I think I got her like 15 people from Clay Buddies.
Oh my
So,
gosh, that's great.
mhm. Yeah, like she was at like 30 or something. She ended up with like 50. So, if you're
That's
doing something
awesome.
online, do not sleep on the fact that Clay Buddies has such a large community. Same with, let's see, what is the pot, like I don't know, the uncensored pottery one.
There's
And
like pottery heads or
yeah,
something.
pottery heads. Hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember the other ones, but yeah, not doing it yourself is probably the. And
That's the
sometimes I
key.
see people will comment on Clay Buddies about I need some pottery podcast ideas, and you see people scroll through, and like the very few people that say wheel talk, and I'll be like, it's you gotta realize that there's so many other people that don't even know about this thing, even though it feels
Yeah.
like such a huge world to us.
Yeah.
It's like a blip for so many because they've never heard of it or they don't listen to podcasts or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like self promote, but I'll like the ones that people say wheel talk and be like, thanks for listening, or you know, um, but yeah, other people talking you up is good too. So
Definitely. Like have a Potter friend be like, "Hey, can you promote this here?" What do you think of? There used to be a blogger in Washington called Macaroni Kid. I mean, like I'm sure she's still a blogger. But she actually was the one that promoted uh a lot of my workshops and stuff when I was in Washington, or like the shop because it was kid focused. And so I don't know if like you're in a local area that has, maybe some sort of like internet blogger or some sort of internet presence, but if like it never hurts to reach out to somebody. And I would pay for that type of advertisement.
if you have
Like
a
if
local Facebook group too that's for your city or your town or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah,
there's
oh
one
yeah,
for my
definitely.
my county, and it's mostly people talking about traffic or some new building development, and they're wondering what's in there, or something like that. But if there's an event going on, I probably should have posted in there for my holiday studio sale, and I did not. But
Yeah, that's like the gossip page. You gotta post on that shit, man.
yeah, that shit gets a lot of traction because, like you said, it is gossipy. Like a lot of folks are just checking in there looking for stuff, even if they stumble upon your small business thing or whatever. Yeah, just the cast the widest net and the least amount of friction possible for people to sign up.
Yeah.
Don't make them go to your website and then go to your events
Nope.
page and then go to your workshop section and
Nope.
find the one and click the button and it goes to Eventbrite and so, like simple as possible.
Also, pictures matter. The right pictures matter. And the right like typography on if you're gonna do like Facebook. I find that Facebook's really great with you need a title and then date and then cost. Title, date, cost. Boom.
You're talking about just in raw text on your
No, like
post, or you're
on
talking about an
like
image?
let's say I'm doing a workshop for painting your own pottery and we're doing Christmas trees. So I would take a picture of the Christmas tree that I painted, like the sample Christmas tree, and then at the top I would say Christmas tree paint or Christmas tree paint party. PJs are
Direct,
welcome.
right to the
Yeah.
point. Yep.
Yeah, Christmas tree paint party. December 20 or it would be like Christmas Eve paint party, December 24th, 2 to 6. Pajamas are welcome. Hot cocoa will be provided. Like you could say that in the very bottom, but like um
You said price too somewhere.
price. But like yeah, like if you're gonna serve hot cocoa, then you put a cup of hot chocolate in the picture so that it's implied. And with marshmallows. And then you know, like but yeah, so Christmas tree paint party, um December 23rd, 24th, 2 to 6 p.m. Make sure you put the date year in there, December 24th, 2024, 2 to 6 p.m. And then under that, make sure you put $40 each.
Location somewhere on there, probably.
Yeah, and the location. Because then people can just send it to their friends with
Yeah, the
all of the
graphic's gonna tell them
information.
everything. And then if you wanna, I'm sure you have a little bit of text in there with it, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you put the text under there and then put all of your details in the text, but like make sure the important stuff is on the picture. Then,
bare essentials, the attention grabber.
Yeah. And like if you are gonna serve food, add that in because that is important. Like be like snacks provided. That's all you need to say.
Kids welcome.
Hot cider. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So
sweet.
that's that's what I
We got in
suggest.
deep on that one.
I know.
All right, you want me to read the next one, which actually ties into another one, and this is basically the topic for the day. So, this one's from
It
Mary
is?
Claire Carr. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of related, aren't they?
I guess.
All right, so this one reads, what are your go-tos for storage space in your studio? I'm struggling with how to optimize my space and would love to hear your solutions. So that's one, and then the other one is from Ally Mac 5. What bare essentials are needed to safely set up a small home studio? Best slash most affordable kiln or firing options for someone doing things on their own. So, studio questions, storage options, and optimizing space, and then, yeah, home studio setup. I mean, you have the ultimate small studio space. So
Sure do.
storage is key for you.
Yeah. Um, the
Make
biggest
small
mistake that
things.
yeah, make small things now. The biggest mistake that I see is a lot of useless tools. That's like the
Yeah.
biggest thing is that like you don't actually need 5 billion. Like it depends on what you do, obviously. And it depends on if it's a community studio or not. But if it's your own studio, like really, I would get out a fucking piece of paper, write a list down of what tools you would love and what tools you have, and really do like a thought study on what you actually need, you know? And like what I actually need is a slab roller, and I don't even need a wheel anymore, really. But like a slab roller, and I need God, what's in I have like one bin of tools right now. It's like one
I mean, you use paintbrushes, slab, or you're not talking about small things. You're talking about table space
like
and bigger.
yeah. Yeah, and the kiln. Like I need a slab roller, a kiln, and a wheel, right? And then I have some like plaster stuff. And but like, do you need an extruder? Will a hand extruder be fine? Like, do you need 5 million cookie cutters? Or is just circle cutters fine? Do you need, do you actually need 7 wire cutters? No. Do you, like, really? I know it's really hard, but just really gotta work on paring down the stuff. Just the stuff.
And
And I
also,
think that's the,
if you've used something and you're like, you know what, I'm done with this for now, and I could come back to it, but I'm gonna save it. Like maybe pass that along to somebody,
yeah,
or maybe don't feel bad about throwing it away, but or donate it to your local school or something that may be able
yeah,
to use it. I find that I just hold on to all the tools,
yeah.
and I'm not even thinking about maybe I'll use it someday. I'm just like, oh, I mean, I got the space, so let me just keep that. But
Yeah, and I like to go through my tools every like 3 months and kind of like look at my shit. Well, I do that in this space, but that's because,
some tools are in cups on my table, and I don't even touch them in 3 months.
yeah, but I like to go through like all of my stuff not all of it, but a lot of my stuff every 3 months and be like, have I even used this? I will say one thing, mud tool ribs are the hardest thing for me to get rid of.
Ooh. Do they wear down that much though? I've been using
Uh-uh,
mine, but they don't
no.
uh
I
especially the one
like,
that I have that's a little thicker. It's not like a thin throwing rib, it's like a
yeah.
stiffer. It's kind of that like triangle shape,
Yeah.
and it's got some heft to it. So
Yeah. Also, Mud Tools is back in business, so if you needed some tools, you should definitely buy from them. This is not sponsored, but I couldn't afford to like give them money, so I said that I would shout out to them because,
yeah,
they're
I've been
still like
transitioning
building back
into
up.
quite a bit of the upgraded from the old school kidney rib, metal rib to the Mud
Yeah,
Tools ribs, and they're nice.
they're nice. The Mud Tools ribs are great. So those ones are really hard. I think that if you can keep something in a small space, then it's fine. But also, it like if you haven't used it in a couple years, give it to somebody else. Like it's not you're never going to use it.
Yeah.
If you are learning everything and you're new, figure out what you like and what's like make sure you're picking up the tools to actually try them out. And if you don't like it, set it in a pile. Say this is my I don't need this pile and kind of like get through that. I as far as but shelving is really important too, by the way.
I feel like shelving a
I
lot of times I'll get some old shelving from Facebook Marketplace or you get it free and then I just make do with it, but it's not optimal. You kind of figure out how you're using it and you're like, this might not work in this spot or, I don't need this much shelving space or
Yeah. I think that shelving is like the most important thing in your studio personally, and it is essential. Essential for a small space. Like what I personally love is to have something that can change to whatever I need it to be. So in a lot of my spaces in the past, I've had slat walls, which are like the best scenario in my opinion, is a slat wall because you can move things, you can cut. I like to cut boards and have them be like 8 inches wide and 4 feet long, and then just stack them on like I said, like a slat wall, or have those L bracket shelving.
hmm
I think those are great too. But something that you can like move around is great. I did see this really cool design on the outside of a shed where they were on hinges. They were like boards on hinges and they went down, and under it you could like lift it up and then um an L-shaped triangle. Like what is that called? A right
to
angle? Right
yeah,
angle triangle.
to stand it up.
Yeah, like went and propped it up and there was two of them so they could completely fold flat like shutters and then
hmm
they could fold up. Those were really cool. Um But yeah, like shelving, I think is really, really important. If you have a small space, getting one of those rolling carts with the metal rolling shelves, those are like amazing, in my opinion.
I've never had one of
Because
those, but I
yeah,
can see the appeal. I
yeah,
don't know. I'm like, would I roll carts around my studio that much? But maybe if it was like a waist high rolling cart, but I don't know.
think about it this way, Ryan. Think about it this way. What if you could put all of your bats on a rolling cart and then you could roll it to wherever you're going to place them? And take them off each time and kind of like maybe put them next to a fan or put them next to the heater. You can like move them everywhere, right? So it's not
hmm
just about like finished stuff, it's more about wet stuff. And
Yeah,
you can also buy like covers for those type of shelves. Like you can buy covers for baking shelves, like the bakery shelves, you
kind of like
know?
making a greenhouse shelving unit, sort of,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
it's got
Yeah.
the
But you can buy like plastic bags that are that big and you can just like
put it
whoops,
over the
roll
whole
it
thing.
over. Yeah. So I think shelving is huge. I personally like wall shelving and a metal cart, but you don't like some people can't have both, obviously. If it's so tiny, I would do wall.
Yeah, I only had one. I had one negative experience with the wall shelving, and that was because I overloaded an old, um, what was that? Like countertop. that I L bracketed to the wall, and I put all my raw materials up there, and then they fell off the wall in the middle of the night. But that's just because I
Yeah,
pushed my stuff too far. It wasn't
right.
made for that.
I'm a personal fan in spending the money on shelves and like being cheap on tables, personally. I would rather spend money on shelves than tables.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess one quality table for the wedging maybe a little bit, because if you're just using
Yeah.
a plastic table, that's probably not
Yeah,
going to be the
there's
best
that.
for wedging. But you could also wedge on the floor,
Yeah.
or have a plaster bat that you reclaim clay on and put that. That's what I use a lot of times when I'm wedging the reclaim. I'll just take the plaster bat off of my shelving unit that's there for drying, and I'll put it on the floor, and I'll just wedge on that because I'm not wedging everything I throw. I'm just wedging the reclaim. So, um, yeah, I think moving things around and not feeling like you have to have I don't know. I love the storage wise, I love having I use drywall boards a lot for finished pot or like working on pots. So I'll work board by board as I'm throwing, and then I'll just move the whole plaster or the drywall board with a bunch of bats sitting on it. I'll just move that to a shelving unit or move that to the table so it can dry in the middle of the room by the heater, or I can take it into the kiln room on the
Yeah.
board so that I'm not carrying individual pots and moving individual pots all around from shelf to shelf and table to shelf and back to the kiln room and like
Yeah. Definitely. Yes. I don't know. What's another thing that's like essential for a small space? The right chair. Your chair is garbage.
I don't use you're talking about the chair that I have at my table,
Yeah.
because I don't use the chair for throwing. You're talking about the gray chair?
Yeah, it's too big. In like a small space, it's like hard to get around.
That's because I can't get rid of desk chairs.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I got a
100%.
new desk chair here, and I've got the leather one back there because I really love it. And then the one that was here before that is now in the studio. I think Erica likes
Yes.
that chair a lot, but it doesn't give that much. It doesn't have as good a padding.
Yeah,
But
it might be comfortable, but it maybe not is realistic.
yeah, I mean, I don't have just that chair in there. I have a wooden bar stool that I picked up off the side of the street that's in there,
That he
and I've
does.
got a fold up metal stool that's got barely any padding on it, but I use an old seat cushion that Rachel used to use outdoors, and I put two seat cushions on there so they're padded.
That
So
he
I've got
does.
like four chairs in there. Yeah,
Yep.
probably just an adjustable chair, but like a bar, not like a good padded bar stool, I think would probably work best in there. I don't really need anything with the back on it, but I don't know, maybe Erica likes the back for applying underglaze and stuff in
I mean,
there.
it's nice to sit in, but it's definitely um too big for the space.
Oh, it is for sure. And also, I
Yeah.
feel like you probably don't want anything that's you want to like lounge in the studio. Like you're not there to lounge. You're there to
No.
work on stuff. It's got to be comfortable for your ass to sit on, but it doesn't have to have all the frills. You don't want to be sitting in a gaming chair in your studio. Like that doesn't it doesn't equate. Like that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah. 100%.
Small space, small space. Well, if you're willing to throw standing up, I mean, prop those feet up on cinder blocks or something. You can, like I have a chair underneath it. You could probably get a shelving unit underneath it, a small thing that you can make and put your bats underneath the wheel down to the floor. Like that'll save you some space. Um, the other thing I did with I have two wheels, but instead of shoving the wheel up against the wall, I wrote this down to have a kind of a shallow table that's in front of it so that you can have storage on top of the table with if you put bats on it or if you put tools on it. If you want to put pots on it or clay on it, you can do that and then you can store maybe you have boxes of clay underneath the table. So you're optimizing basically all that space instead of butting your wheel right up to the wall and you don't really have any space around that and you kind of have obstructions around you because you have to get up to go to a table or get up to go to a shelving unit. Like
Yeah.
all of that can be a little tough. But if you have a table or if you have a vertical shelving unit right in front of your wheel, you can use that shelving unit and optimize that little space that you have. I've never been a fan of putting the wheel up against the wall anyways. Who wants to look straight at a wall? Well, yeah, I
Me.
think you do, but
Yeah, I know I'm an oddity though on that one. Like I fully realize that not everybody is a fan of looking at a wall, but I don't care what I'm looking at. I'm looking at pots.
yeah.
Yeah.
Storage space in the studio. How to optimize my space.
Oh, also, I'm a huge fan of having a shed outside the studio if it's in your house. Um, if you need it for like storing, like I used to have a really small studio, much smaller than Ryan's, and I had a shed upstairs that I would store all of the bisqueware that I had.
mm, yeah, it's not gonna be ruined from moisture.
Mm-mm. You can always wash it off too.
You were also firing on your porch, right, at that time? Or were you
Yeah, I
firing
mean
in the
like
studio still, so you would transport it?
yeah, I would think I was firing at my like on my porch, but still like someplace semi-close, you know.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of that. Like you can find sheds for pretty cheap. I hope you still can find sheds for pretty cheap, but it doesn't have to be fancy, you know. It doesn't have to be like temperature controlled or any shit like that.
I mean,
It's
honestly,
just
you can go if you don't have that much stuff, you can just use plastic totes probably and just cover it in
yeah,
a tarp.
100%.
It doesn't have to be that fancy. Plus, you can move the tote if it's Bisqueware. You could probably move it with help or pick it up yourself if it's not that full.
Yeah.
But uh, that's not a bad idea. What about the one thing I was thinking about was I tend to buy clay in bulk, but I think if you're limited on space, you can, obviously the price is more attractive in bulk in 1,000 pounds versus 500 pounds, but maybe for space concerns, maybe you get a couple 100 pounds instead of or
Yep.
500 pounds instead of 1,000 pounds
Yeah.
because the physical space that that takes up is significant. And you might be like, you know what? I'm willing to take the price cut because it's going to be more enjoyable day to day in this square footage that I have to work with because a smaller chunk of it is dedicated to just clay boxes.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've talked about in the past too, is that you don't have to store your clay right next to you know? If you are in a tiny space, um, you can, like a lot of people are scared to store their clay outside, which I totally understand. If you have like a good way to shelter it from the weather, if you live in an area like Seattle or someplace that maybe doesn't get freezing temps all the time, like literally not talking about Minnesota right now. Um, that's not what I'm talking about. But if you live in like an area that maybe is yeah, like you get like a couple weeks of frozen weather, then get an old refrigerator. Find a refrigerator that is broken. Like it still has a seal, it still can protect from the outdoor weather. It might get a little cold, but once you pack all that clay together, it you have a lot more of a solid mass to get through and freeze. So keep that in mind.
Hmm. I've never technically stored clay in a garage that's been close enough to going freezing. It's always been in the back of my studio, which our old house was a tandem garage, so it was the basement and the garage, but it was so
Yeah.
far away from the exterior that it wouldn't freeze.
And it was like underground too. So
Yeah. So,
I've
if you
never
can
had a
store
garage.
it, if you can store it in a garage that's, it's not close to freezing, maybe it's 10 degrees over or it gets close during the certain time of year, but it's reasonable otherwise. Like, otherwise, you got to be carrying, 10 boxes of clay down to your studio and taking up space. But if you can store it in just one small area, garage, shed, if you need to make sure it's out of the moisture, if your shed's a little iffy, maybe don't put it in the shed.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can soften it up. It's not gonna, as long as there's no punctures in it and it's airtight, it should be good. And I don't think heat really affects it much. Like if you're in a really hot
Mm-mm.
spot and it gets really humid or hot in like an outdoor shed or something, I don't think that's really that big of a deal.
No, I agree. Yeah.
What about like materials and stuff? I would suspect it's very attractive to use commercial glazes in that aspect if you don't have a lot of square footage because you don't have to worry about raw materials.
Yeah, that's
I know
true.
some studios locally will have they can mix up glazes for you where you don't actually need to hold any raw materials yourself. You can give them a formula and tell them you want this amount of it, and they just mix a bucket. So you don't really have to, and you pay for the raw materials as they mix it.
I
So
think that is
that's a
unique to
good
Cincinnati.
okay. I
I'm
think
not
there's probably
sure,
some
but
individual artists that probably do that as
oh
well.
yeah, I agree. I think that there is definitely like p individual people, but I've never heard of a studio doing that other than
Yeah, Core Clay
Cincinnati.
does it here. I assume they still do it. But yeah, I mean, they probably you pay a premium for it. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
$20 fee to mix it or X amount per pound they mix or something. But
yeah.
obviously, if they have all the raw materials there and they just need to pick and choose and they're already taking those bags down to smaller things because of, making smaller quantity weights to sell in 1 pound and 5 pound and all that, then I mean, that's a business in and of itself. If people aren't offering that, I would suspect that's not a bad business option.
It is not a bad business option for sure. I had a friend that used to do that for all of our friends. You know, he loved to mix it and he had the space, so he would just mix it and then bring it into town when he came. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It'd be like, I want this amount mixed to this specific gravity, and maybe they test it. I don't know if they test it for you too, but that'd be kind of nice
Or
if you
you
could.
could just mix the dry ingredients too.
Oh yeah, just get the dry ingredients, and then you do the water and you do the sieve.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, cutting down on that. You've got the commercial glazes where you can paint on or you can dip. Cutting down the number of glazes you have.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good.
big.
Cutting down the number of underglazes you have if you use underglazes. Uh, yeah, obviously that's going to cut down a lot. I mean, not using more than one clay body is going to cut down some some options there. It's going to cut down on reclaim also. If you're worried about reclaim, maybe you don't have the space for it, donate it to somebody. Becca's a
Yep.
big fan of throwing it away if you don't want to keep
Listen,
it.
I'm a big fan of donating it before throwing away, obviously. But or making a pizza oven. Big fan of that. But you make it sound like I'm super wasteful, which I'm not.
No, you're
I
totally willing to throw it away though if you had to. If you
if I
didn't,
had to, 100% in the trash it goes.
yeah. Or I've thrown some in my yard before. Yeah.
Yep. That took a
Um,
long time for me to get there though. A long time.
Yeah, I got this little hint last week of I got like a little spurt of I just want to get rid of a few things, get rid of some shit. When you
Oh
hit that
no.
point and you're like, "Ooh, I get a little urge," and then I just start tossing a few things. I'm like, "Ooh, it started. All right."
It's done.
It takes a while to get there, but once I've gotten there, I'm like, "Okay, I think it's time." Like you're talking about the tools thing. I'm like, "Okay, I need
Yeah.
to inventory my like I'm getting to that point. I got shelves where I got tools sitting there. I need to just go through them, even if they're good, like perfectly fine tools. They're like, "Hey, take a photo of it. I'm gonna post it to my Clay Alliance group or whatever. Say, hey, free tools. Come get it.
Yeah, I mean like they've lived a life, man,
Free bucket
Like
of glaze. This old glaze. Here's a test how. Here's what it looks like on white clay. Here's what it looks like on this clay.
come get
Whatever.
it.
Come get it. I've literally had it in my studio for like 6 years.
Yep.
It's made a move from one house to the next. Like what? Why? This old
Why?
cat litter buckets. I've got cat litter buckets. Come get these cat litter buckets. I got. I'm
Oh
not gonna
fuck.
slow down on
I
these.
didn't I didn't grab those. I was gonna I need to remember to grab those.
I've
Change
got
out
like
my
I've got at least six of them that are
I
extra
know,
that are just whatever. So definitely grab
but
some.
remember we talked about it the last time and I just forgot to follow through on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I'm trying to think of Allie
I
mentioned
think that oh go on.
Allie mentioned best most affordable kiln or firing options for someone just doing things on their own as
Well,
well.
honestly, like if the size is fine, that plug and fire is one of the best, but then like a 3 cubic foot kiln would be your best option. And
Yeah.
something that's used would also be your best option.
Yeah. Good old kiln sitter, 3 cubic foot. Get your bearings, understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't feel so stressed about breaking something because it's already old as shit and you probably didn't pay that
Yep.
much for it. It's meant
Yep.
to be put through the ringer because it's cheap.
Yep.
It's also a more simple machine. There's less to go wrong with it because it doesn't have an electronic controller and all that stuff going on.
Yep.
So that's an option. Obviously buying used
Yep.
too. I would totally buy a used electronic controller kiln. I mean, I did that if you can find it. So, even if you're like, oh, well, I have aspirations of doing these large things, maybe, but like, that's where your situation. Don't get too big of a kiln that you're like, I hope to maybe make some bigger forms. I was thinking about it, but then you'll find yourself like, oh, I don't make enough to fill it, and it takes me, you know, 3 months to fill it.
Yeah.
And if you're not
I think
sure and you
that
want to see, like maybe do a kiln share with somebody. Maybe like kiln share is an option online where you can find people that have kilns and they fire for you. That's an option. You got community studios that fire for you. Maybe see how much they can fit in a kiln. Uh, get a feel for what options they have.
yeah. I think that it's interesting. I would love to do a thought a thought experiment on the fact that everybody seems to um feel like they need to get something big right away, but it's because they want to like grow into it, which I understand. However, it if you have to I feel like if you have to grow into something, you should have the money to pay for the next step.
Repeat
Like
that. If you have to
if
grow into something, you have to have money for the next step. What does that mean?
if you have to grow into something, you should have the money to pay for the kiln that you need to grow into. Like a 3 cubic foot kiln can hold a lot, you know?
It can't.
And like And I'm not saying that you should get like the tiniest kiln out there, but if you get a 3 cubic foot kiln, that can hold a lot. If you get a 7 foot kiln and it takes you 10 years to get to a point where that is like working for you, you should have gotten a 3 cubic foot kiln. And then if you got to a point where you were outgrowing that 3 cubic foot kiln, then you probably have enough money to buy a 7 foot cubic foot kiln. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, mine's
Like,
a big kiln. Like you can fit a lot in there. And also the
yeah,
production I'm producing, I'm still only firing it once a month.
right. And like, I just sometimes I see people who, and this kind of like goes in line with when you buy, when you have a small space, like everybody's like, "Oh, well, I need to like make sure that I get a 7 foot cubic foot kiln because I don't want to buy a kiln twice." But it's okay to buy a second kiln. It's okay to like sell your current kiln and buy a new one. It's
Or to keep the current kiln and then you have a second larger kiln and then you're like,
right.
well, I use this smaller one in these situations where I need to turn something around quick and I want to it's fine because it's got a kiln sitter. I know that it's not as good as the next one that I got, but you've got the bigger one for when you need that electronic controller, you want a little more reliability, maybe you have a lot more work to pump out.
Right. But I mean like I just like think that you shouldn't be so worried about the future and be concerned about the present. Because if the future becomes a worry, at that point, if it's a worry, then you're making enough money to like meet that need, you know?
Right.
And so if you don't have a ton of space, get the 3 cubic foot kiln. Like
Or the test kiln, get the
or the
plug and
test kiln.
fire that you don't have to, you don't have to worry about, oh shit, I gotta get this kiln. Now I gotta spend $1,000 to get it wired. Like, why? If you're
Yeah.
like, oh, but I want to make a vase that's 12 inches tall. Okay, can you like take it to a studio to get fired? Do you have to fire it in your kiln if you're gonna make it once every 6 months?
Yeah. Like be realistic about what you are going to make and what you're like if you're going to sell stuff. I know people that are selling like I'm pretty sure Aletha's kiln is 3 cubic feet. Like and she's literally making her entire living on
Yeah.
on that kiln. And like
You're probably not spending
it
that
might
much
be
more
5.
money either. I mean, the electronic controller is going to fire more efficiently, but you're probably not spending that much more money. Like having to fire a smaller kiln a couple times than fire one big kiln.
Nah.
Like it's minuscule.
It's
So if
minuscule.
anything, you're also getting better at the process of firing it because you're firing it more rather than saying, oh, well, I only need to fire this kiln, 5 times this year because I don't make enough work to fill it. Then you're also
Yeah.
like that's a big risk too because every firing is so monumental.
Right. And hopefully by the time that you grow out of that kiln, you also potentially grow out of that tiny space. You know, like you can hopefully by that time you can like get a studio that works for you or build out a studio or,
Maybe you
something
move
like that.
homes or something.
Like having a small studio just means that you have to be better at moving and like organizing.
Mhm.
Heidi Fehrenbacher moved from her giant veterinary clinic to a chicken coop, a literal chicken coop. And
That's a
she's doing
large chicken
fine.
coop. When she said chicken coop, I'm like not thinking how big it is.
That's true. It is kind of it's well, I mean it's large, but it's smaller than my it's about the same size as my van. It's a little bit longer maybe. But you can make it work in a small space even if you're making $70,000 a year, you can make it work. Even if you're making $100,000 a year, you can make it work. You just
Mhm.
have to like find what's important to you and what is your needs and then meet them.
I could also
But
incentivize you
also,
to help continue to get things out of the house too. If you're making and
yeah,
you're like, I need, that might be like, okay, well, I'm running out of room. Make sure I'm signed up for some markets to get some of this stuff out
yeah,
or post it
yeah,
online or whatever so you can continue to keep it moving so it frees up space for you to keep making. I know a number of people too that they have like I mean Zipporah used to do this. She used to have it in her laundry room in her basement and it was just a small corner. She didn't produce a ton of work and she was doing it more for teaching. Um but she didn't have a lot of space. I know Colby from Spinning Glory back in the day, she used to do,
yep.
you know, she had a tiny space too. It was right by the washer dryer. She had like a shelving unit, some damp boxes. Her kiln was in her garage. Like you don't need a lot of room to do this.
You don't.
And
You
if you
just
got
have
to
to be smart.
and I get it, like you're probably gonna be like, oh, it'd be so much nicer if I didn't have to carry my pots up and down stairs and outside to my garage. But also, how often are you doing that? Okay, you put a small shelving unit by the kiln in the garage, and you put a shelving unit in your studio, so you transport it from one shelf to the next shelf. Maybe you do it a few times over a week to get it all out there so you don't have to do it all at once, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be all in one small footprint.
yeah.
You did that. I'm sure you had some troublesome transporting some pots up and down stairs and out of
Hey,
tiny studio spaces.
well, I think that a lot of people don't realize that I also started m making pottery in a one bedroom apartment. Like, I had my wheel 4 feet away from my bed. There was literally clay everywhere. Like, there was clay. If you get clay in your dishwasher, it never leaves. It just like travels just to other things in the dishwasher. It's like,
Everything's got like the streaks on it or something.
yeah, yeah, it just travels. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I just like everybody else, I've had like the small spaces. And honestly, and I've had the big spaces too. For those of you that may not know, I've had a 3,000 square foot space and I've had a 200 square foot space and I've had a 75 square foot space. So like I've had them all and I much prefer a smaller space. I would not, this is not what I prefer. The van isn't a preferred smaller space, but my first studio I had two kilns in there, and it was kind of like a U shape. I had two kilns, two wheels. It was probably 100 square feet, 10 by 10, and a huge shelving unit in the middle. And I was pumping out hundreds of pieces. Like,
You
and
don't need much. I mean,
you don't need much. And I had like a folding table, and that's what I worked on.
all the other
So,
stuff is kind of nice and fluff and having a TV in there and having
yeah.
whatever else people have to make that space more enjoyable. Like,
And you figure out like my space was so small that I had to build the shelves in the studio.
right, you
Like,
said you had to deconstruct it to get it in and out of there, right?
yeah. So, and like and we had to take the railing off of the stairs so we could get the kiln down. Like, yeah, and yeah, eventually I outgrew it and I moved half of the glazing area, I moved it to the porch. And
Yeah.
then I went to a huge space and it was way too big. And I wished I had my small space again because it was organized. It was super organized and that was the best part.
hmm So I've never actually done this, but I suspect it would be um, pretty enticing to, as you're trying to figure out the kiln situation, to just take your stuff to a studio to get fired.
Hmm.
Because the desperation of like, I need to get a kiln now feels like you're going to spend more instead of being like really savvy and constantly checking Facebook Marketplace and the different Facebook groups and looking for options as they come up because they do come up every now and then, people get in and out of pottery all the time. People pass away and their studio equipment becomes available. I think just having that option that when you're ready, you make that purchase
Hmm.
and you can, you have a friend or family that you can get a vehicle from to borrow to get it there. Um, like Becca said, don't get something so massive because you're like, oh, that's such a great deal. It's like $600 for this 10 cubic foot kiln. I can't pass it up. It's like I can use this for you, but it's also like you're gonna figure out what you need and what you don't need and grow into
Yeah.
it and how much money you're gonna spend on this thing and getting it wired up and all that stuff. And then you feel like, well, I spent all this money to get it wired up. Why would I spend more money to get something brand new and part ways with this thing that's working perfectly fine? But you kind of just like got yourself stuck into a situation where you're like, I probably should have taken a little more time, shopped around a little bit, maybe. And if you're also firing a studio, like make your own stuff, figure out how much you're actually making, take it to them and get fired and say, all right, how much space did that actually take up in your kiln? Can I see like what it looks like in reality inside of a kiln? Because I don't really know what 3 cubic feet seems like until you actually get it into somebody's kiln.
Yeah.
Because if you never had it and you're like, oh, well, this takes up a lot of shelving space, like, it takes up 2 to 3 shelves. That's got to be a kiln's worth, right? And then I take 2 to 3 shelves worth of work from my shelves and put them in my kiln. It's like half of a kiln when it's bisque. It takes so much work to fill a kiln or one of my 7 cubic foot kilns. Um, and also like Jessica, our friend Jessica, she has a wheel and everything at home and makes everything at home, but then she has a membership at a local studio at Core Clay and she pays them a membership to use their glazes and to fire
Yeah.
the kilns. So like she gets everything fired there. You do have to transport greenware, so that's a worry for some people and a concern or thing you should consider. Um, get it fired there and then it's bisque fired and you use their glazes. They fire it again. Like you don't have to worry about that part of your process. You probably need a lot less space for that too. So, but then you have the cost of paying for a membership or paying for kiln space. So, I would suspect that knowledge and understanding of like what you actually need is going to be worth that extra money you're paying up front to make the
Yeah.
best decision for your needs. And who knows, maybe you'll move between that 6 months that you're, you know, setting up a home studio and figuring things out and being at that studio. And then you're like, oh, well, like actually, we're gonna move, so like I gotta restart all this. But and then hopefully,
Also,
if you're moving, you can also consider like, hey, I need to think about where am I gonna have a studio if I'm gonna be working in this new home or I'm shopping around. Like, do I want it in the garage? Do I want it in this other room? Is there enough room in there? Where's the outlet gonna go? Like, where's my kiln gonna go if I get it? All that kind of stuff.
yeah, also, well, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Do not buy an oval kiln ever. Um, unless you
For
are have a
for personal
studio.
use is what you mean.
Yeah, for personal use. Do not buy an oval kiln unless it's so apparent that you need it. Like, just don't. It's so big. It's it's impossible.
You
It's like
Even
almost
sculptors, how
impossible to
the hell will
sell.
you load that thing?
Yeah, you have to have a front loader kiln for sculpture. Um, but also I wanted to say choose you have to choose. I mean, you don't have to choose whether you like, you know, hand building or throwing, but you should prioritize one because that depends on what type of equipment that you buy. So, like when I was just starting out, I prioritized throwing and I bought a portable slab roller. So it was like a small one. It was mini. And now I have a mini one as well. And but I have like portable everything. But I also have a regular wheel and it's in Teresa and Brandon's garage. So, but so it's always been a priority for throwing as opposed to hand building for me. Um, but like if you are a hand builder, don't get two wheels. Like,
I would
you
also
know,
say if you're a hand builder or if you're even like a novice thrower, don't get the top of the line wheel either. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe don't
Like,
get the bottom of the barrel wheel. Maybe don't get an Amazon wheel, but also Aletha's been using an Amazon wheel for a long time and replaced it and it works. But also don't spend like $1,000 on a wheel if you can get
yeah,
away with getting a wheel for like 500 or 600.
exactly. Like, prioritize what you want to do. And of course, that may take time to figure out, but, like, buying like a large slab roller. Now, I will say that slab rollers are a lot easier to work with within a studio than a wheel if you're not using it as much because slab rollers can double as a table. But but then it just becomes a junk holder anyway. But like, yeah, really prioritize what you want to do. And that's why going back to like making a list, make a list of like all the tools that you want and or have and really think about the last time you used it and what you used it for. And if you're just rolling out slabs for like the smallest thing, then maybe a slab roller's not for you, or maybe a mini slab roller's better for you that you can kind of like place somewhere that's a little bit out of the way. And so just consider that. Um, because, like I would argue that you don't need a slab roller and a wheel if you do one or the other, primarily. Like Ryan's never had a slab roller.
No, I've never had a
And
slab roller, never felt the need for a slab roller.
but he has a rolling pin, you know?
Maybe. Yeah, I
Well,
think I have one
Erica
upstairs.
does.
Oh yeah,
Erica does.
Erica does, yeah.
But like, there's other options for making slabs that don't require a slab roller. And yeah. So that's what I would probably recommend.
The other thing I was thinking when you were talking about that was thinking about the things you need and don't need. I've got this cup in the back that's got like stirring utensils in it.
Hmm.
Like think about what like I don't need like do I need four toilet brushes, four whisks, three sets of tongs, two paint stirrers? Like I don't need that many. I'm never using that many glazes in the way that my order of operations and the way that I mix glazes and stir up and go through that process, I never use that many. Like I could probably get rid of half of those
Yeah.
stirring utensils. It's not like I said throwing, stirring utensils I have and like paintbrushes. I could probably ask Erica, okay, if you had to pick from this assortment of 20 paintbrushes we have, which ones do you actually use? And I could probably get rid of two-thirds of those paintbrushes. Because I'm like, we don't use these. Why do I keep them? It's like somebody else can make use of this, especially the little like hand paint brush, the little circular paint brushes. I'm like, we
Yeah.
never use these. I've probably had these for 10 years. Why are they in here? I'm not painting anything.
No, you're not.
So, yeah, I'm gonna go through a nice purge here in the next few weeks.
I feel like this has been very therapeutic for you.
Mm-hmm. Making me prioritize some things.
It's hard. It's hard to like really realize that you don't use certain things.
And
It's hard.
smashing pots. I've got freaking bisqueware on the bottom of my shelf in there that's been there
Oh my
for two
God.
years. I did start glazing some. The one thing that's been nice is I've put some things in the soda kiln because I'm like, okay, like it'll kind of refresh a little bit. But also I'm kind of getting to the point where I smashed a few pots that were seconds quality off this shelf in here, and I was like, okay, I need to like that was one of my sticking points I was talking about where I was like, get rid of it. And
Yeah.
that's what I was doing. I was smashing 10 to 12 of those pots. But yeah, paintbrushes. I'm like jotting notes here and stirring.
Oh, and old glazes. Get rid of those fucking old glazes that have been sitting there for years.
Yep. Old
I hope this
glazes.
is, I hope this motivates half the population that listens to us.
Yep, it's gonna be coming to a Facebook page near you that all this stuff's available.
Yeah.
Let somebody give it a second life. And if nobody gets it, I might even be willing to throw it away.
Oh, oh. I have something that I want to start doing on the podcast that'll kind of like make me more excited.
What's that?
I know that we haven't like finished our thing, but I would love, so I mean, I often um go through like Instagram and like find new people, and especially like I find these amazing potters that are like unbelievably talented, and they potentially don't have like the following that they should, maybe, or maybe they're not trying as hard, obviously. But I think it would be really fun to highlight two new potters that we find every week that we really like.
Mm.
Like you find one and I find one, and obviously you don't have to find one this time, but I did find one, and um this is kind of what started this thought for me.
Actually,
And
I have one in mind.
okay, great. I'm gonna share mine. And so if you have a pencil, I'll wait 4 seconds. Four. Okay. Her name is Allie Shoreman. I assume it's a her. There's no pronouns on anything, but it's ALI underscore SCHORMAN. And she makes functional art for tactile people. And her shit is so cool. I just like happened to like
Mm.
stumble upon it. And she was in Pottery Making Illustrator, which is even cooler. And it's
Front
just
cover.
really, yeah, it's just really vibrant and like tactile, like she says, and the colors are fantastic. And you can tell she's like, I think she's working on porcelain. It sounds like she's doing drops that are probably selling out, but they're just phenomenal. And I believe that she is using, I want to say it's clay dots, and then she's painting them. And yeah, they are for sure. And but yeah, I think I don't know if they're slip dots or something, but it's just so cool. So if you are um yeah, you should look her up. Who's your person?
All right, this will be the one. So this is actually the girl that I featured for my mug of the mug Monday today this week because she actually made me a custom story mug, which is basically just a kind of like snapshots of things about me and Rachel to create, yeah, just kind of a narrative and story on the outside of this mug. It's
What's her
got
name?
Cassia Joy Art, CASIA JOY Art
Okay.
on Instagram.
Can we try also on our thing, can we try to make everybody under 10,000 followers that is
We
that
can we can try. I mean,
okay. Well, just like I don't know, just look for that. Um, wow, these are cool.
yeah, so she asked me some questions and she actually took some snapshot photos from our past posts and reels and whatnot. And yeah, they it includes, she did this mug for me. It's got the canals in Venice. It's got tiki inspired things with cocktails. It's got our two cats on there.
That is
It's
so
got
cool.
certain color, like our favorite color. Mine's orange, and then Rachel's is red. So it's got like all of these things accounted for, and it's custom made. And apparently, she actually broke one of them when she was making it, and she had to remake it. So
Oh no.
that was unfortunate. But yeah, Cassia Joy Art.
Yeah, very cool. Her other stuff is really cool too. I mean, like she has like just more like artsy. Well, the other stuff is artsy too, but more like flowy kind of work that is really beautiful.
Yeah. Did you have a
Yeah.
second one or just that one for
No,
today?
just that one, and I think we should do one each time.
Okay.
No like pressure or anything, but I think it would be a fun highlight.
Okay.
Should
We'll
we
see
should
if
we
I
do
can
it at
I'll see if I can think about one beforehand so that I'm not on the spot, but I thought of that one.
yeah.
That one's appropriate for this week, so
Yeah, I was just and I don't even know if it n necessarily needs to be pottery. I think it probably should, but yeah, I just know that I always am finding things.
okay. Don't be surprised if there's a lot of atmospheric fired people on mine because I love that and I feel like they don't get enough appreciation because I know what's involved in that process and it is nuts.
Yeah, for sure. For shizzle. Do we have more things to say?
Not for me.
I don't really either. Do you think that we should always end with our person, our
We can.
peoples?
I
Yeah,
mean,
that'd be good.
it'll get to the
That'll be a
very
good
end.
end.
I mean, if we want them to get more uh awareness, we could maybe put them earlier in the episode.
That's a good point.
Like maybe we bookend our uh how was your week with
Oh, that's a good idea.
who's your
Let's do that.
person? We ended our week. Who's your person for this week?
Yeah, that's good.
Who's your feature? And then we go into
Yeah. What are we gonna call it? Pottery peep. The pottery peep? The peep of pots? The um
the
the uh
let's think on it. I can't think on the spot then what it is. I feel like it'll
okay, but for now, up until then, it's just the pottery peeps. Just that's our savor.
I feel like it needs to be like weekly, not like weekly shout out, but like weekly something. I don't know. Needs to be catchy.
Look at this.
Is that a purse?
It's like a makeup bag, but I'm using it to hold pens. And for everybody not watching, it's an angry frog. I don't know if it's angry, but it's confused maybe. It's a cross-eyed frog, and it's fantastic. And the frog eyes are little pockets.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT and see what comes up. So we'll do that offline and tell you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Becca
Well,
thinks I rely on ChatGPT too much for things, so
I do, but it's fine. I do know that it's useful. It's not you. It's just like, you know.
I don't care enough to think about this topic for like 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
see what it
You want
spits
to see
out.
the painting I did or the drawing?
Ooh, I think I like I'm trying to think at the bottom under the green, is that is that just dots or is that
Yeah, it's little
okay, it's
dots.
dots. I think I like the grid part the most, or that
This part.
the pink triangle-y part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I like this one. That was fun. So, yep. Okay. Well, cool.
Sweet. Thanks
Thanks for
everybody for
listening
listening.
to us. Yeah, thanks for listening to us talk.
Yeah. We'll
Uh,
catch you next time.
bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to another episode of Wheel Talk. This podcast is made possible through the contributions of all of our listeners who always ask us great questions, leave us reviews, and contact with us through social media. Thanks to all the fellow makers as well who take time to be interviewed and share about their lives and businesses.
And thank you to Ashley from Boldover Ceramics and Lindy from Lindy Garner Ceramics for their assistance on the Whale Talk Podcast Instagram. You are invaluable. Thank you to everybody.